thanks for watching. You may have done this dish in the class, or you may just be looking at it for the first time, but it's a ballotine of lentils and pearl barley. We're also going to do a sweet potato millefeuille with that, and a celeriac puree, plus a garlic oil. So there are quite a few elements to the dish. The first thing I'm going to show you is the curry oil, which is very simple to do. I'm going to throw a bit of rapeseed oil in the pan. I'm going to turn it up quite high because I want the oil to get as hot as it possibly can, as quickly as it possibly can. There we go. I've got some turmeric which goes in. Well, I've actually got some lemon zest. Not traditionally a curry-ish flavour, but it will add nice flavour. And I've got a curry powder there. I'm going to fry these off reasonably quickly, and now I'm just going to tip about 50 ml of oil into the pan. In fact, what I'll do is I'm going to drizzle a bit first, and then I'm going to add after. There we go. That will go back on just for a second. Just bring it up to a reasonable temperature. Now, I will actually leave all those flavours to infuse, and then I'll have that lovely flavoured oil which we'll use to garnish the dish. So that will go to one side now. We'll come back to that in a minute. The basis of the ballotine, or what we're going to actually roll the ingredients in, will be the Savoy cabbage. And I've done a bit of pre-prep here already. We've cut out the very chunky leaf, and then we've parboiled them for 20 seconds, no more. So they have been cooked. But what we now need to do is break down the veins, and the easiest way of doing that is just by very gently rolling them with a pin. And I'm going to do that with all four. What this will then do is allow us to wrap the ingredients with the Savoy cabbage. There we go. Right, we'll come back to those in a minute. The next part of this dish is to create the sweet potato puree. What I've done here is I've taken a sweet potato and we've peeled it, and I'm now just going to dice it into, the easiest way I think of doing it is just taking off all the sides and then cutting it into strips and then dicing each of the strips. So it's going to be like that, and obviously the sort of law of cookery is try and make everything roughly the same size in the hope that it will then cook at roughly the same size. I'm going to put them in a bowl actually, and the reason for that will become evident in a moment. I'm just going to dice as much of that as I dare. That goes in. Bit of seasoning in there. We've got rapeseed oil, salt and pepper. Give it a good old mix. Now we're going to cheat a little bit in this video because we want to do it as, in a reasonable time. So we've got our sweet potato on the tray. Those are going to go in the oven for about 180 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes, just when they look nice and cooked. In they go. And you see, here's where I cheat, because those have been in for roughly that sort of time. And what I'm going to do now is just blitz those up with a stick blender, so I can actually use the same bowl. In they go. And I'm going to mash those up with our stick blender. Right, that is the sweet potato, so that's that part of the dish done. One of the things that I want to do on this dish is create a starchy element. I'm using this phyllo pastry, and I'm just going to cut along like that, and then down the other side, probably about there. We've got our 4 sheets. I'm going to take the first 2 sheets of phyllo, and I've got my egg wash here. I'm just going to egg wash the first layer, and then on top of that stick the second. I will need to straighten it up, but it will now gather a bit more robustness as a result. Do that. The next job is to take our sweet potato mash and stick it on here, and then, here we go, I'm just going to spread this along like so. Another layer of phyllo goes on top, a little bit of egg wash. If you don't put the egg wash on, it just dries out, so you need a bit of moisture, and obviously if you use egg then it gives you an extra layer of texture. And you see what that's now done is it's created a starch-based base for this particular dish. So that goes on, and I would put it in the oven for about 12 minutes on 150 degrees. So in it's going. We've got pearl barley here, and we've got green lentils, and I've cooked these in the same way. I'm not going to demonstrate how to cook them because it is very straightforward. All I've done is taken some onion and garlic and fried them off in a pan. I've added the raw ingredients, and I've done this as separate operations. So I've done the pearl barley, put that in with the onion and garlic, covered it with water, cooked it off for about 20 minutes, past any moisture, and let it cool off. And I've done exactly the same with the green lentils, let them cool off, and they're in here. The next part is a celeriac puree, which is very simple to do. A drizzle of rapeseed oil. I'm just going to dice up the celeriac. I'm not going to use all of it, but you want the dice to be roughly the same size, the theory being that if they're all roughly the same size, then they'll all cook at the same time. So the onions go in, and we've also got a bit of thyme, so that can go in. Dice those up. In they go. I'm going to put the milk in and then let that slowly cook down. And in about 5 minutes time, when most of the milk has reduced down, I might add a little bit more in if it needs it. The point is to get the celeriac nice and cooked. So I'm just going to give that a good old blitz. Right, I'm very happy with that. Give that a bit of a mix. And that's now ready to include in the dish. So we'll set that aside as well. But that's the celeriac puree done. The next element to the dish is going to be the Savoy cabbage. We've just got a few extra ingredients. So I've put some rapeseed oil in the pan. When you throw the onions in, there's a nice little sizzle, like that. Turn it down now. You would always cook onion before garlic because the garlic is going to be smaller. The garlic goes in. I've got some celery which I've diced up, and some diced carrot. So all of that can go in. Sweat those off. Throw in the Savoy cabbage. Now this will dry out pretty quickly, so you can use water or any liquid you like. And I've got some white wine here. And the idea is you want the veg to be quite crispy. Right, we can forget about that, and we'll dress the dish at the very end. We're actually getting somewhere with this dish now. So what I'm going to do is just create a little, almost like a rectangle from which we can put all our ingredients in. Now, seeing as I've got quite large pieces, I'm gonna just sort of cut the most ideal shape that I can out of it. There we go. So there's one. And I'm just going to lay them over because I want the whole thing to be sort of completely uniform in shape. I want it to be exactly the shape I want it to be. So there we go. Right, in a bowl I'm going to take some green lentils, the pearl barley, the sweet potato mash, some parsley, just for the hell of it, a little bit of salt and pepper, And I'm just going to give those a little bit of a mix. So combine those as best I can. And now I'm just going to line the Ballotine with those ingredients. You'll note that I've got a sheet of cling film underneath my Savoy cabbage, and I'm just going to roll this up, kind of like sushi. It's quite easy to do. You know, you might be intimidated at first, but hey, I'm doing it, so how difficult can it be? Try and squeeze all the air out. So you roll it up like a Christmas cracker. So we've got our Ballotine there. I'm going to stick that on top of our makeshift steamer. Grab a cloth, and that's going to go in the oven. So everything's going to come together now. After our fantastic performance of putting the Ballotine in the oven, so I'm just going to take that out. We'll deal with that in a minute. So the first job is the Celeriac Puree. So a nice big dollop there. This will form the base of the dish. Then we're going to put the millefeuille on top. And then we've got the Savoy cabbage, which can go on top of there. And then I'm just going to show you how to prepare the Ballotine. Just need to untangle it. Right, so I'm now just plating this bit up, like so. I've got the oil here. I'm just going to drizzle that along. And there you have the Ballotine of green lentil and pearl barley with a celeriac mash and a sweet potato millefeuille. Hope you enjoyed that.